Hey guys, it's Liana. I am an editor over at Game Informer and Game Informer magazine, and today I am making a video that I get asked for a lot. If you don't read the online website in addition to the magazine, you may have missed I did a 2,000 word article, shocker, about Mass Effect. Shocker. Basically what it was is it's a very detailed analysis. You know, you see a lot of sites that are like, new trailer, let's break it down, and it always just kind of seems a little lazy. Like you can kind of tell that it's a SEO grab because it's the trending topic. That's definitely not the case with this. I have over 31 playthroughs of the Mass Effect trilogy. I have 9 playthroughs of Andromeda. I have read all of the books, all of the comics, have all of the collectibles. I have it tattooed on my body, so needless to say, I am very attached to this series. So because of that, and because I have read all of the comics and all of the books, and I thoroughly enjoyed them, I have a lot of knowledge, I guess, to pull from when looking at any kind of a teaser. And BioWare is also pretty known, especially with Dragon Age, for kind of hiding things in plain sight. So when they dropped the trailer at last year's Game Awards, I was like, oh shit, we are going down, like, yeah. And there's actually a lot to unpack, so I will link it below, but the title of the article is The Next Mass Effect and What a Tale of Two Galaxies Could Mean. So the very intro part of the video is Andromeda, is the Andromeda Galaxy, and then we go through this tale of time through the Milky Way, and we see, you know, we hear echoes of radio hails. We hear towards the middle of the video the telltale boom of the Reapers, and it basically details what has happened thus far, including the first contact war with the Turians versus humans, and when we discovered the relays, when humanity joined the collective in the Citadel. It's kind of a cool timeline that if you're not super familiar with the franchise, or you're not familiar with it at all, none of it will mean anything. But if you are familiar, even casual fans kind of picked out certain things, but if you're a no-life fan, there is a lot to unpack. But one thing that I constantly get tagged about, to be fair, I did tell people, like, if you want to go into this, you can tag me. And then I kind of realized that my reasonings were a little bit too long for Twitter. Of one part I talked about, especially because we see towards the end of the trailer, we actually see Liara, and she's scaling a decrepit, dead Reaper. And I have this entire theory, which I detailed there. I'm not going to detail that here because I've already written it out. And I honestly would just appreciate the support if you wanted to read that, to just be frank. I don't want to beat around the bush with that. It would mean a lot to me if you read it. But I already kind of did all of that. But seeing a Liara that is much older, she has the lines in her face. She's in matriarch age, which means probably close to 600, 800 years have passed. 600 years is also how long it takes to make it from the Milky Way to Andromeda, according to Andromeda lore. So there's just a lot of cool stuff. But the one thing I mentioned in there is, you know, I tied in the implications of tying it into the Destroy ending versus Synthesis, versus the 3 endings. And, you know, I'm talking about what each choice can mean into this new adventure, the future of Mass Effect, which, disclaimer, that is years away. We are not going to see anything beyond cinematic teasers for a couple more years to go. And I have talked to several developers about this, and it's still a long ways off. So, you know, temper the expectations. Try to, you know, there's so many other things to focus on. Don't worry about it. But one of the things I mentioned was that I am actually going to just blow right past the ending that was added post-launch. You know, a lot of people were upset, and this is a video I can do separate because I am very much the minority, and I'm the minority with my opinion because the books kind of shaped it, and the comics also shaped my opinion about the endings. But I feel like that's way too long to include in a video like this because I'm really bad about rambling, so I'm gonna try to keep this, you know, limited to a certain amount of time, which I'm already not at a good start with. But I talked about in the article, you know, but wait, you know, with her holding N7 armor, does this mean Shepard's coming back? And I'm just going to pull directly from the quote here. I said, obviously, I can't eschew anything officially because we all saw the same trailer, but I'm going to say no for a few reasons. The first being that Shepard was always canonically meant to be a trilogy. They were meant to be the martyr for the cause. Unless Miranda was back with another go at the Lazarus Project, I think it's best to start re-saying those goodbyes once more if that's what you're really hoping for. The second reason is that it takes centuries to make it to the Milky Way from Andromeda. So how does that explain Liara? And then I go into Asari lifespans and what that means and kind of the lore that the game has set up regarding that entire race. So where I messed up is I told people, yes, Shepard could be alive, but so much time has passed. But then people are coming in with clone theories, pulling from the Citadel DLC, or they're just pulling from hopes and dreams that maybe he was put in a stasis, or she, depending on what Shepard you pick. And for me, I will always include everything. And it's funny because a lot of people assumed I just forgot about the ending, with the extended ending with Shepard drawing in a breath at the end of the Citadel, destruction at the end of Mass Effect 3, that was added later. The breath was not in the game at launch. That was added later, and only if you had X amount of galactic readiness. So why do I reject that? Okay, so a few reasons, and I kind of touched on it in the article a little bit. So Shepard is meant to be a trilogy. Like that storyline was only meant to encompass 3 games. Shepard was always meant to be the hero that doesn't find their happy ending. And why I believe that is, one, the developers have said that numerous times in the core development of especially the first 2 games. That was what was happening. That they were very honest about that. So we always kind of knew that it was going to come to a head that probably a lot of fans might not appreciate, because nobody wants to see their favorite characters, die and fall into the abyss. But one thing that I didn't like about the extended breath is I feel like it kind of betrayed the original vision a little bit. And there was an artistry to Mass Effect 3 that I think gets overlooked a lot, because a lot of people are so hyper-focused on the 3 endings, which to me reflect the 3 major philosophies of the game. You have Paragon, Renegade, and Paragade, which is the blend of the 3, or the blend of the 2. And the 3 ending choices really showcase that to me, reflect those philosophies back in a effective way, in a way that can honor key choices made without overcomplicating and convoluting the story. But for me, I really liked that, and you'll notice this too if you play the trilogy just straight through. Like 31 playthroughs, I usually do them, in order. I'll do, jump into 1 and play all the way through 3. And it's really evident when you play them consecutively, because in Mass Effect 2, even though Shepard has a lot going against them, they die. They get brought back. They're now a part of this terrorist organization that we hated in the first game, and there's a lot of confusion, and some of their old squad mates are very confused. Some join up, some don't, and it's this big whole thing. And even with all of that, phone is going crazy for work. Sorry about that, guys. But even with all of that going against them, and even with an actual mission dubbed the suicide mission, Shepard always maintained this air of inspiration, that their crew would follow them to hell and back, and did follow them through hell and back. And that was an inspiration. Hi, puppy. That was an inspiration that was very much rooted in military convalescence. I'm former military. It's so funny when, I actually got COVID not too long ago. Actually, ironically, getting my vaccine after a year of staying in quarantine. And even with 101 fever, I was still working and still doing video. We did an interview with Nate Shot, and I literally had 101 fever that entire time I was doing it. But that's part of kind of the military mindset, is, mission first. And is recording an interview with Nate Shot an important mission? But that was my job. And to me, the job is the mission, you know what I mean? And so that is a kind of an instilled military thing. And then part of Shepards Specialness was the fact that they could unite a galaxy. Their charisma and their strength, they pull from, and it inspires those around them. And so even though the odds were stacked against them in Mass Effect 1, when you have to make that choice on Vermeer, and there's a lot of things that would just destroy lesser people, they really came out on the other side and always maintained we can do this no matter what. Even with the suicide mission, when it was certain death, they were like, no, I've got this. Like, we are gonna do this. We're gonna kick ass. It's been a pleasure serving with you. Hoorah! You know, all that kind of stuff. And in Mass Effect 3, that changes. And Mass Effect 3 takes a much darker tone, and you actually see the effects of the past several years just really start to weigh on Shepard. And the team did a really good job, in my opinion, of reflecting that in the sighs and the exhales when somebody asks them for help, or the hunched shoulders when they're having a moment of feeling like it's too much. With your romance option, you know, the night before the big push, of like having that real honest moment of can we even do this? I don't know. And you never heard them say that in the previous 2 games. That just wasn't done. They maintained this air of confidence no matter what. And we saw a much more vulnerable Shepard in Mass Effect 3. And it was very evident in a lot of the conversations with squad mates, especially if you were really good about talking to squad mates after every mission and talking to them as much as possible, and doing the DLC, like especially with Leviathan. You can tell Shepard's defeated, and you can tell that they're still committed to the cause, and they're going to do everything they can to ensure that they come out on the other side of humanity. You know, humanity's and the galaxy is going to come out on the other side. They're going to defeat the Reapers. We're not going to be harvested. Yeah, we got this. But you can also tell that he and they were also pretty convinced that they weren't going to be a part of that picture on the other side. So even though they were still committed to the mission, it was very clear in the conversations, the facial expressions, the reactions, the choices that were offered, that Shepard, no matter what, was pretty convinced, like 99.9999% convinced, that no matter what happens, even if they're victorious, they're not going to be a part of that victory. They're going to fall in the battle. And that's what happens. And for me, as much as that was sad, like, you know, I have a video on here, if you haven't watched it, about how Mass Effect saved my life. Commander Shepard as a character, as an archetype, literally saved my life. That's not hyperbole. That literally happened. It literally happened. It, like, the power in that character is so inspiring. So yes, I would love for Shepard to live, but to me, that breath was such a slap in the face to the artistic vision of the entirety of Mass Effect 3. And I feel like that change didn't just come out of nowhere. Like, people are like, well, you know, they weren't like that before. And it's like, but this was a natural progression. You kind of saw the de-escalation before. And then the beginning of Mass Effect 3, when Shepard literally watches Earth start to fall after being imprisoned under house arrest. So they were going from military being their entire life to going into the civilian sector to being pulled right back out on the front lines. That's a lot. And Shepard doesn't really have time to process it at all. It's just immediately boots on ground. They're also confronted with the squad mates from Mass Effect 2 that didn't rejoin because of distrust over the organization that Shepard was attached to. And it, you know, there's a lot of turmoil, and there's a lot of tumultuous conversations and emotions happening, and it all plays a part into what Shepard is like throughout Mass Effect 3. And I feel like the Citadel DLC is really good for this too, because you have this hilarious total fan service DLC that is literally just fan service, and it was great. And then you have the ending where they're leaning on the railings, and you can see the Normandy, and the love interest will come up, and they'll be like, it's been a good ride, and then Shepard's very quiet and just very trying to be in the moment, but having a really hard time, also plagued by nightmares, PTSD. There's the indoctrination theory, but they're like the best, you know what I mean? Like, it just it even when they were trying to be hopeful, it was hard to maintain that hope. And for I don't know, it was poetic. And as sad as it was to see them fall, the ending sequence when they're going up to make the choice and their life flashes before their eyes and they see their squad mates happy, Zahid retired, and then the love interest smiling into your view as if you're looking right at your love interest, and that's the last thing they see. I love it. I feel like it was a very appropriate send off. It was a heroic ending. That was what the whole trilogy has been building up to, is this one heroic moment. It wasn't Game of Thrones season 8 where it was robbed by a Arya in a knife. It was a very heroic ending, and I feel like the breath just cheapened that. They've already been brought back to life. We did that storyline already with the Lazarus project in Mass Effect 2, and having those moments and that final send off of before I go, I want to see your face one more time. It was beautiful. And when you find the body in the rubble before the game ends and the end credits roll, I just imagined a moment of peace. And maybe that's my own relation to death. I have a very unhealthy relationship with death. I saw my first dead body. A person was killed right in front, when I was a young child. I also, trigger warning, and I wrote this up on Twitter on a Medium blog post where I have actually attempted suicide in the past, not just with the ship in that video, but like an actual, if my neighbor didn't see me, I wouldn't be here. And so I think I have a really weird, macabre relationship with death anyway. But I was comforted by knowing that Shepard could rest after being the pawn of everybody in the galaxy, the Alliance, the N7 program, the Batarians, the Asari, the Turians, the Council. After all of that, they finally earned their moment, their right to rest. And that's really why I reject the extended ending. I didn't like it. I played it because I wanted to see what all the fuss was about, and I wanted to experience it firsthand, because knowing something and seeing it externally and then actually experiencing it is two different things. And I did it, and I thought maybe if I do it, I'll feel differently, because I love Shepard. I want Shepard to be happy and live a long, happy life with their love interest. And I played it, and I had the same reaction that I thought I was going to have. It just felt wrong. It felt forced. It felt anything other than the original ending of Shepard perishing. It just felt disingenuous. I don't think there could have been any way they could have made that work in my head, because the entire build-up of Mass Effect 3 is preparing to say goodbye to Shepard. So that's really my big reason of why I kind of reject the breath sequence. And I do enjoy the endings. To me, they made sense. Would I love to see a little bit more personalization? Yeah, but honestly, with 31 playthroughs, I can tell you, it really bothers me when people say your choices don't matter. Then you have not played a couple of times, because I have playthroughs that some of them are nothing like others. Like, I had no idea that Tali could kill herself. I had no idea that Eve could not even be in the picture. And I remember the first time I played a playthrough where Eve actually died. It was the first time that happened. I was shocked, because I didn't even know it could happen. And the ceremony in the pyramid on Chachanka was beautiful, and it felt almost like it came out of another game. It was so like out of body type experience that it was just stunning. And depending on the choices you make in the first game, Rex might not even like you. The first time I did a full Renegade playthrough and Rex didn't like me, I wanted to curl up in a ball and cry, because it was like, that's my bro, like, you can't like me. And being mean to Garrus, no, we don't do that in this house. We be nice to our Turian. But there's so much variation that I feel like the 3 endings really tied it up in a bow. If you're interested in learning more about that, there's kind of a lot of philosophy that goes into my thought about that, and I'm pulling from the books and the games and stuff, and the comics. Mostly the comics, I think. I am happy to make that video. I don't think I have time in this one, but that is definitely, I'm open. I will never turn down a chance to talk about Mass Effect, obviously. Not subtle. But yeah, so that is my big reason of why I reject the breath and the extended ending. That is not my ending. I think it's okay to let Shepard rest. I'm very excited for the future of Mass Effect. Andromeda had a lot of potential, especially at the end of Andromeda, when we realized that the Ket were actually nothing. That wasn't the enemy. So the Ket almost were like the Mass Effect trilogy's version of the Geth. We thought the Geth was the big bad in the first game, and then we learned towards the end, like, oh, it's not. What's a Reaper? And that's kind of what Andromeda was with the Ket. And we learned about the creators of the Angara, and there was a lot of mystique, and the hail that was at the very end of the post credits with the Quarian arc was very interesting. And I'm interested to see where they go from here, because there are so many ways they can go. They can do a sequel 600 years from now. If they wanted to, they could do a completely new story with nothing relating to the trilogy and Andromeda. They could do the first contact war when humans were like, hey, galaxy, what's up, aliens? Let's hang out. And, they end up going to war with Turians, which is a renowned military force. And there's just so many places they can go, and I'm excited to see, especially because a couple of, yes, some people have left BioWare, but some veterans, a lot of people, I don't really see anybody talking about that, but a lot of veterans are also returning, and a few veterans have returned that haven't been announced. So I don't know. I'm trying not to be that person. I try to be a realist in a way of like, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, but also at the same time, it's like you have to, there's so much interjecture and conversation happening, not rooted in fact, just feelings and emotions, and that's fine. But when we're presenting those as fact, that's kind of a problem. And I'm seeing a lot of unnecessary hate, not a lot of accountability regarding BioWare versus EA, and things like that. But that's a whole other conversation, because if we go into that, I'm going to be here for like 10 hours. But yeah, so that's really the gist of why I reject the breath ending. If you have any other questions, or if I didn't clarify something the right way, I know I tend to ramble. I apologize. I'm from the South. That's kind of what we do. But if you have any other questions, like, hit me up. I'm more than happy to elaborate in the comments. If you have any other videos you would like to see, Mass Effect related or not, Dragon Age related or not, like, I've got a ton of deep dives on Dragon Age 4, including how I think that Solus is actually the creator of Red Lyrium. That's over on Game Informer. I'm slowly but surely turning Game Informer into a BioWare blog, unintentionally. My bad. But yeah, so that is me. So thank you for tuning in, and catch you guys next time. Bye.